Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode: Early 1970s Giza Intelligence, Bafath, the concepts of the Giza Intelligence, Bafath, Lyrian-Vegans, and Plejaren form one of the most intricate and widely discussed mythologies within modern contactee history, largely popularized by the Swiss contactee Billy Meier, Edward Albert Meier. Beginning in the early 1970s, an in-depth analysis of these factions, their historical framing within alternative ufology, and their underlying narratives reveals several key structural themes. In the cosmological framework presented by Meier and echoed in various channelings and esoteric groups, humanity's origins are not purely terrestrial. Instead, Earth humans are viewed as part of a vast interstellar diaspora. The Lyrians, according to these accounts, the Lyra constellation, was the cradle of an ancient, highly advanced humanoid civilization. Billions of years ago, a catastrophic interstellar war devastated Lyra, forcing waves of refugees to flee. These groups migrated to various star systems, including the Pleiades, the Hyades, and the Vega system, eventually seeding human life across multiple planets, including Earth. The Vegans, originating from the star Vega, in the constellation Lyra, the Vegans share a common ancestry with the primary Lyrian stock. In contactee lore, they are often depicted as having a slightly different genetic and cultural evolution, possessing profound technological and philosophical wisdom, and playing an active role in early human colonization and spiritual architecture. The Great Dichotomy, Plejaren versus Bafath, Giza Intelligences. A central pillar of the Meier chronology is the ideological and cosmic conflict between two distinct factions of humanoid extraterrestrials interacting with Earth. Among the pantheon of mid-century contactee narratives, few loom as large or remain as fiercely controversial as the claims of Swiss farmer Billy Meier. Beginning in the 1970s, Meier claimed to have engaged in extensive face-to-face communications with extraterrestrial visitors. However, the cornerstone of Meier's lore introduced a radical recalibration of standard UFO geography. His contacts were not mere star travelers from the physical Pleiades cluster, but beings belonging to a sophisticated, dimensionally shifted civilization known as the Plejaren. A deep dive into the Plejaren mythos reveals a complex philosophy of cosmic geography, strict ethical non-interference, and spiritual awakening. A foundational detail in Meier's extensive contact notes is the correction of nomenclature. When Meier initially referred to his interlocutors as Pleiadians, borrowing from the visible physical cluster of stars located roughly 440 light-years from Earth, the visitors reportedly corrected him, insisting on the term Plejaren. The Plejaren explained that they do not inhabit our exact space-time continuum. Instead, they reside in a dimension that is fractional seconds, or a slight frequency shift ahead of our own reality, within the spatial coordinates of the Pleiades star system, specifically centered around a planet named Era. This interdimensional cushioning allows them to bridge the gap between their advanced plane and our gross physical world without violating baseline universal physics. Unlike the clinical, shadowy grays associated with covert abductions and genetic harvesting, the Plejaren fits squarely into the classic Nordic or human-like contactee template. They are described as strikingly tall, humanoid, light-complexioned, and physically indistinguishable from humans, often sporting blonde or light hair. The Plejaren allegedly represent a civilization millions of years more advanced than humanity, not merely in terms of anti-gravity beam ships, which Meier famously photographed and filmed in crisp detail throughout the late 1970s, but in their mastery of social harmony, telepathy, and ecological balance. Their society is reportedly free of the economic strife, war, and religious dogmas that plague Earth. The purported mission of the Plejaren is diametrically opposed to the aggressive intervention or biological desperation attributed to the Greys. Their operational ethos is rooted in strict cosmic boundaries. The Plejaren explicitly refuse to act as technological saviors or gods. They maintain that humanity must solve its own socio-political and ecological crises independently, arguing that handing advanced technology to an immature, war-prone civilization would lead to self-destruction. Rather than landing on the White House lawn or conducting medical experiments, The Plejaren allegedly delivered massive volumes of philosophical, historical, and scientific teachings to Meier, compiled in documents like the Talmud Manual and the Figu Notes. Their core message emphasizes spiritual evolution, critical thinking, the liberation of human consciousness from dogmatic belief systems, and absolute personal responsibility. Meier's voluminous contact notes, coupled with his extensive collection of photographs, film reels, and metal samples, ignited a global movement centered in Hinterschmidrudi, Switzerland. However, the case has also been a lightning rod for skepticism. Critics, photographic analysts, and former associates have pointed out numerous inconsistencies, alleging that Meier, who lost his left arm in a bus accident, fabricated his physical evidence using model spaceships, household objects, and double-exposed imagery. Regardless of whether viewed as an elaborate, decades-long hoax or as genuine metaphysical transmission from a dimensionally shifted civilization, the Plejaren narrative permanently reshaped modern ufology. It elevated contactee literature from simple sci-fi encounters into deep ethical philosophy, positioning our cosmic neighbors not as biological refugees or invaders, but as elder spiritual teachers urging humanity to grow up before it destroys itself. Within the sprawling contactee narrative popularized by Billy Meier and the FIGU, Free Interest Group Ufology movement, the cosmos is not merely a peaceful classroom of enlightened educators. Instead, it is depicted as a complex geopolitical and spiritual battleground. While the Plejaren represent the pinnacle of ethical, spiritual evolution, their dark shadow is embodied by a dissident faction known as the Giza Intelligences, or more commonly, the Bafath. A deep dive into the shadowy faction reveals how Meier's lore integrated ancient human history, hidden subterranean enclaves, and covert psychological manipulation. According to Plejaren contact notes, the Bafath are not a native, non-human alien species from a distant galaxy. Instead, they share a deeply intertwined historical origin with humanity. Millions of years ago, human ancestors, originating from star systems like Lyra and Vega, spread across various sectors of the galaxy due to interstellar wars and planetary upheavals. While groups like the Plejaren evolved towards spiritual harmony, communal equality, and non-interference, a dissident splinter group chose a radically different path. They embraced tyranny, technological dominance, ego-driven hierarchy, and the subjugation of less developed worlds. The moniker Giza Intelligences stems from their terrestrial operational base. For millennia, this renegade faction maintained a secret stronghold hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, specifically operating in and around the ancient Giza pyramid complex. According to the lore, the Bafath frequently intervened in early human history, presenting themselves as gods, kings, or divine rulers to primitive earthly populations. By exploiting human ignorance, they established religious dogmas, autocratic rule, and systems of psychological enslavement. Eventually, the Plejaren and other higher cosmic alliances intervened to restrict the Bafath's direct physical dominance on Earth, forcing them into a state of semi-isolation. However, they retained a powerful subterranean and technological footprint, continuing their operations covertly. Unlike the physical abductions or medical harvesting associated with the Zeta Reticulans, the Bafath specialized in a much more insidious form of warfare, psychological and ideological subversion. Operating from hidden bases, the Bafath allegedly utilized advanced telepathic broadcasting equipment, technological mind control, and subtle electronic frequencies to project voices or thoughts into the minds of unsuspecting humans on Earth. Throughout history, the Bafath have supposedly targeted sensitive individuals, mediums, and unstable political or religious leaders, feeding them false revelations, apocalyptic prophecies, and divisive dogmas. Their ultimate objective was to keep humanity fragmented, perpetually at war, and spiritually stunted, ensuring we would never achieve the maturity required to join the wider galactic community. A major narrative arc within Meier's files involves a covert, high-stakes galactic policing action. The Plejaren maintained a continuous vigil over Earth to systematically block and neutralize the Bafath's mind control grids, tracking down their hidden transmitters and dismantling their subterranean operations. Ultimately, the mythos of the Bafath and the Giza Intelligences serves as a cautionary tale within alternative contactee lore. It frames humanity's greatest threats not as invading armies descending from the stars in a blaze of kinetic warfare, but as internal and clandestine manipulations, shadowy forces exploiting human ego, superstition, and fear to keep our civilization locked in a cycle of self-destruction. Shadows over Giza, the Bafath, subterranean control, and 20th century eviction. Within the intricate tapestry of Billy Meier's contactee lore, the narrative of the Bafath, often referred to as the Giza Intelligences, provides a dark geopolitical counterweight to the benevolent teachings of the Plejaren. Far from being distant cosmic observers, the Bafath are depicted as an entrenched manipulative occupation force operating right beneath human civilization for millennia. A deep dive into their history, technological methods, and ultimate downfall reveals a compelling blueprint of ancient alien conspiracy literature. The name Bafath carries a deeply ironic etymology within the lore, purportedly translating in their own lexicon to mean the righteous or the pure grandiose self-designation that starkly contrasted with their actual methods of tyranny, fear, and psychological bondage. Thousands of years ago, this renegade faction established sprawling subterranean bases beneath the Giza Plateau in Egypt. Protected by deep bedrock and ancient geological formations, this underground network served as their command center for operations on Earth. Using advanced technology far beyond the comprehension of early human civilizations, the Bafath projected holographic imagery, manipulated seismic frequencies, and utilized sophisticated telepathic broadcasting. To the ancient populations of the Nile Valley and surrounding regions, these renegades posed as almighty gods, divine pharaohs, and celestial rulers, demanding obedience, establishing rigid hierarchies, and embedding themselves at the root of early human mythology. Unlike the overt physical abductions attributed to the Greys or the open, face-to-face dialogues claimed by Billy Meier with the Plejaren, the Bafath mastered the art of indirect, covert warfare. Rather than revealing themselves en masse, the Bafath historically pulled strings from the shadows. They worked through human intermediaries, secret societies, and psychologically vulnerable political or religious leaders. Their primary weapon was ideological subversion. By introducing fear-based religions, uncompromising dogmas, and divisive tribal frameworks, they intentionally kept humanity fractured. The objective was clear: maintain human intellectual and spiritual stagnation, so that Earthlings would remain forever incapable of unifying or challenging their unseen masters. One of the most dramatic arcs in the Meier contact documentation involves the systematic neutralization of the Bafath in the modern era. According to the Plejaren contact notes, humanity could not evolve into a spacefaring, spiritually mature civilization, while a hostile, rogue faction was actively hijacking our psychological development. Throughout the late 20th century, particularly culminating in the late 1970s and 1980s, a concerted effort was launched by the Plejaren and allied cosmic groups. Using advanced technological means, they located and disabled the Bafath's subterranean mind control transmitters, jammed their broadcasting grids, and systematically cut off their operational capabilities. Stripped of their technological leverage and psychological dominance, the Bafath stronghold beneath Giza was effectively broken. Accounts state that many of the remaining members were forced to flee Earth or surrender their power, ending thousands of years of uninterrupted subterranean interference. The narrative of the Bafath offers a potent psychological and philosophical warning within alternative ufology. It suggests that humanity's greatest historical trials, religious wars, dogmatic oppression, and internal division, were not merely flaws of human nature, but the calculated outcome of a parasitic, hidden influence. By framing liberation not as a battle against physical space invaders, but as an awakening from manufactured mental bondage, the Bafath legend mirrors humanity's ongoing struggle to reclaim its own sovereignty. While mainstream science, archaeology, and academic history firmly dismiss narratives of subterranean renegades and interstellar diasporas as modern mythmaking or science fiction, the conceptual framework of the Giza Intelligences and the Lyrian-Plejaren lineage has left an indelible mark on alternative culture. A closer look at this cultural impact reveals how these fringe ideas intersect with broader popular movements and psychological archetypes. The core premise of the Bafath narrative that ancient megalithic monuments, most notably the Giza pyramids, were engineered, influenced, or co-opted by non-human intelligences posing as gods, serves as a foundational pillar of modern alternative history. This concept mirrors the explosive ancient astronaut hypothesis, popularized in the late 1960s and 1970s by authors like Erich von Däniken, Chariots of the Gods, and later expanded by Zecharia Sitchin. While mainstream ancient astronaut theories often treated extraterrestrials as neutral engineers or physical laborers, the Bafath framework injected a sharp moral and geopolitical dimension. It framed ancient structural marvels, not just as technical achievements, but as tools of psychological subjugation, instruments used to awe primitive populations into religious and political obedience. Beyond literal interpretations of subterranean bases and invisible mind control grids, esoteric interpreters and modern mythologists frequently analyze the Bafath narrative through a psychological lens. In this view, the Bafath act as an externalized manifestation of humanity's darkest impulses, the lust for absolute power, technological hubris, and the desire to control others through fear and dogmatic systems. By casting the Bafath as unseen manipulators who exploit human ego and superstition, the narrative offers a powerful allegorical framework. It suggests that humanity's primary obstacle to spiritual evolution is not an invading alien armada from the stars, but our own susceptibility to tyranny, division, and self-deception. In essence, the enduring significance of the Giza Intelligence mythos lies in its ability to synthesize ancient historical mysteries, modern technological anxieties, and deep-seated philosophical questions about human freedom into a sweeping, high-stakes cosmic drama. My journey with the Giza Intelligence, a term for the non-human entities that have overseen human history from the dawn of our civilization, began not with a telescope or a radar screen, but through the visceral, unmediated directness of personal experience. Across two distinct encounters, decades apart, I have come to understand that these beings are not merely visitors from distant stars. They are active, meticulous architects of a human evolutionary narrative, operating through a lens that transcends our linear perception of time and space. My first encounter occurred in January 1992 during a tour in Giza. We were staying in a bungalow-style property that sat in the shadow of the Great Pyramids. During the opening gathering in a vast ballroom, a setting that felt incongruously large for our small group of 50 participants, the atmosphere shifted with sudden electric intensity. As our tour guide began her introduction, the sensory reality of the room dissolved. The acoustic layer of the room faded, and my vision became a hyperreal slideshow. I watched as the woman's face transformed, cycling through identities, a Roman general, an ancient Japanese empress, and other figures I could not identify. It was not a hallucination. It was a lucid, waking vision. Behind the guide, the coordinator, and the interpreter, three extraterrestrial entities manifested as if emerging from an interdimensional portal. They appeared only from the waist up, draped in identical, tight-fitting gray uniforms featuring high, stand-up collars adorned with an emblem. Unlike the classic grays of pop culture lore, who are typically depicted as naked, these beings were dressed with clinical, military-like precision. Their features were unmistakable: large, round, obsidian eyes, and small, refined facial structures. The moment of contact occurred when one of the entities realized I was witnessing them. Our eyes locked for a fraction of a second before they vanished. I glanced at the participants around me and realized they had collectively slipped into an inexplicable state of unconsciousness, as if the entities had paused time or suppressed the collective awareness of the room to conduct their work. It was clear they were not there for us. They were researching that specific woman's past life imprint. My second encounter with this intelligence occurred in the summer of 2013 near Mount Shasta. The experience began with the appearance of a spherical UFO rising from behind the mountain, followed by a massive transparent orb that materialized atop a high tree before evaporating into thin air. Upon our return drive to Seattle, we experienced a sequence that defies conventional explanation. Twice, at nearly midnight, we drove beneath hovering UAPs that seemed to be positioned deliberately to await our arrival. The significance of these encounters manifested the following morning. My female friend and her boyfriend knocked on my door, distraught and confused. On the boyfriend's back, near his left shoulder blade, were three distinct square marks that had not been there the night before. To any student of the Giza legacy, the meaning was self-evident. The three squares were a precise geometric representation of the three pyramids of Giza. It was a calling card, a signature left by an intelligence that has used the Giza Plateau as a central anchor for its operations throughout the millennia. These experiences have led me to a singular conclusion. The Giza Intelligence is not an alien force in the sense of a foreign invader. They are a constant. They possess an exhaustive understanding of the soul container biological vessel that holds human consciousness, and they are deeply invested in the archival records of our past lives. The marks left on my friend and the visions witnessed in that ballroom confirm that we are living within a vast monitored curriculum. Whether they are researching the karmic trajectory of a particular soul, are signaling their presence to those of us who have the eyes to see, they are working within a framework that treats human history as an ongoing, interconnected experiment. We are the subjects of a process that began long before the first stone of the pyramids was set, and it continues to this day, waiting just behind the veil of our ordinary reality, guiding the evolution of consciousness toward a goal we are only beginning to comprehend. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archived Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.